Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Program is Focal Point, network is AFR Talk. Came across this description of myself on the website Democratic Underground. This is a quote from the Democratic Underground. This is just from a commenter. This wasn't from one of their staff members. Brian Fisher is Rush Limbaugh on bath salts. So that will be now my new moniker, Rush Limbaugh on bath salts. That would be me. Now, a quick soundbite before we get back to the phones, 888-589-8840. And by the way, we're hearing from people that have talked to headquarters that they are taking a poll. They are keeping track of the numbers for and against. So, ladies and gentlemen, numbers count. Numbers count. That number to call the Scouts again is 972-580-2000. 972-580-2000. You can also send an email at duran.smith@scouting.org. Now, Jim Harbaugh, you know, President Obama was kind of messing around with the NFL. So, look, if I had a son, I don't think I'd let him play football. Now, think about that just for a minute. President Obama is fine sending your daughter to die in combat. And remember, if they removed this restriction on combat, that was the last thing that kept your daughters out of the draft. That was the only justification for not drafting women, as there were certain jobs in the military that they were not going to be able to do. Because if you're in the Army, then you do whatever they tell you. And part of being a male in the Army, you're available to do whatever job they order you to do. Now, women are going to be ordered into combat whether they want it or not. You know, one of the stories I've got in the stack about women in combat, they don't want to do it. Most women don't want to do it. Even female Marines don't want to do it. I've got the testimony of one female Marine that served for 5 years in a combat situation. She came back completely broken down. Her body stopped producing estrogen. She is a complete wreck physically as well as mentally as well as emotionally. They're just simply not equipped for it. And the women who served in combat will tell you that. And yet President Obama, he's just fine. He's absolutely just fine sending your daughter, ordering your daughter to go die in some hellhole in Iraq or Iran, but he doesn't want his son to play football. He says, if I had a son, I don't know if I'd want him to play football because it is so violent. So he's perfectly fine with sending your daughter off to die, but doesn't want his son to play tackle football. Anyway, Jim Harbaugh, coach of the 49ers, is clip 2, was asked about this. What's your reaction to President Obama saying if I had a son, I wouldn't let him play football? Here's what he had to say.
A few days ago, President Obama made a comment that if he had a son, he wasn't sure he would want his son to play football. Are you concerned that there's a perception that the game of football is unsafe and that a lot of parents might feel that way?
Well, I have a 4-month-old, almost soon to be 5-month-old son, Jack Harbaugh, and President Obama feels that way, then be a little less competition for Jack Harbaugh when he gets older. That's the first thing that jumps into my mind if other parents are thinking that way.
That's a competitor speaking right there. Just clearing the field for my son. Well, let's go back to the phones. Again, the number for the Scouts, 972-580-2000. Let's take some phone calls on the subject of the Boy Scouts. Let's go to Janet, Amarillo, Texas. Janet, what's on your mind?
Yes, I called our local office in Amarillo.
Yes, ma'am.
I called them, got another number in Irving area, called them, she recorded it, and also I called the 972-580-2000 number, and it took a long time to get through to that number, but I kept on and persisted to call, and I got through, and they recorded me as well.
Okay, great.
Yes, I am totally against homosexuals being involved in the Boy Scouts of America. I've always looked to the Boy Scouts to be a morality standing group that would honor God, family, and country. And those moral teachings are there, and they need to stay there. If we have homosexuals involved in the Boy Scouts of America, there will be no more little Boy Scouts.
That is true. All right, Janet, appreciate the call.
Thank you. May God bless you.
God bless you, too. Yeah, there will be no Boy Scouts of America. It will cease to exist if the Executive Council goes through with this. We hope we can pull them back from the brink. And, again, they're recording your phone calls, and numbers count. They are keeping track of the numbers for and against. 972-580-2000 if you want to call the alternate line, 972 580-7848. You can try that number if the 2000 number doesn't work, 580-7848. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Vince, Oklahoma. Vince, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mr. Fisher. I appreciate you taking my call.
You bet.
Well, I sent you a message on Facebook. I'm a fourth generation involved in scouting, or my son's a fourth generation. I've been an Eagle Scout since 1974. I've been involved with scouting ever since. And if they go through with this, we're out. And it's going to be, there'll be some tears shed because that's what we do as a family.
Yeah.
My kids get the choice either doing scouting or extracurricular school activities like sports, and we always choose scouting. And I pray to God that the scouts will toe the line and do what's morally right and abide by their own creed. And I can't understand after winning the Supreme Court battle that they've won.
Well, and they were holding firm. They were holding firm even just a month or two ago. There was a local district that wanted to give an Eagle Scout to an out and proud homosexual, and the national office said no. We've got standards, and we're going to hold to those standards. So just as recently as a month or two ago, they were holding the standard.
Yeah. Well, I called my district scout executive this morning, and he said yesterday there was about a 38-minute hold time to get through the national office. So of course, I tried to call right after your program yesterday, so maybe that had a little bit of effect on that.
All right, Vince. Well, listen, I appreciate your call. You know what Vince is saying? The homosexual lobby, I just call them big gay. You got big pharma, you got big oil, you got big this, you got big that. And the left always use that term to refer to these entities that are bullies. Well, I want to tell you, big gay is the biggest bully in America. They are the biggest bigots in America. They are sinister. They are malicious. They're trying to destroy the military. And with President Obama and the liberals in Congress, with their collaboration, they're doing it. Vince has said, look, we've been in scouting for generations in our family, and we'll walk away. We'll shed tears over that, but we'll have to walk away from that. And we had people call on this program that had generations of service in the military, and they said, look, if they allow open homosexuals to serve in the military, my teenage son is not going to be enlisting in the military. We've got males enlisting in the military for the last 4 generations. That comes to an end if open homosexuals are allowed to serve. And that's how we're going to get back to the draft, ladies and gentlemen. They're going to have a tough time filling their ranks with qualified soldiers. So they're going to have to go to the draft just to get enough warm bodies. And that means your daughters are going to be pulled into the draft, and they could be sent into combat to die, whether they want to do it or not, because of big gay. So we can understand there's nothing benign. There is nothing, absolutely nothing benign about big gay, about the homosexual lobby. I'm not saying that about every homosexual. A lot of them just want to be left alone. But there's a significant minority that want to destroy every institution that stands for truth and the Judeo-Christian system of morality. Let's go to David in Pascagoula, Mississippi. David, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Yes, a couple things. First of all, I did call the 580-2000 number. The 590 must have been a typo.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get through, they do put you through to a poll. And as soon as you do the poll, the question is, are you for or against the change? So you need to be prepared where if you're not thinking, am I for or against, you're for keeping it the way it is. So they're asking you, are you for or against the change, but don't even say anything about, changing to allow homosexuals
what the change is.
So I had to think about, wait a minute, what are we trying to, so they don't have me say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Had to pause there for a second. So just so people are prepared, you need to be against them changing.
Yeah, we are
and
against
them. And they don't even, specify what their change is. They just assume you know all this in advance.
Yeah.
But the other thing is I've been involved with the Boy Scouts for past 4 years. My son's been in it and been in leadership for 3 years. For almost 2 years, have been a Scout master for our little troop. And my son is just now starting to do the beginning stages of his Eagle Scout project. So this is something that we're really saddened to hear about. And yes, part of the Scout oath or the promise at the very end does say to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. So my question is then, does that mean they're going to change that, no longer say that, or that's not going to be true anymore?
Yeah, well, there's a reason that they call that even the homosexuals call us straight.
Mm-hmm.
They call us straight. So what does that make them? It makes them bent. It makes them crooked. It makes them twisted. it makes them perverse, to use the older vernacular. So even their own language, they call us straight because they're not. They're bent. So I don't know what the Boy Scouts are going to do with that part of the oath. Here's hoping that they don't change it. Listen, I appreciate the call. Thank you very much for that. Let's go to TJ, Fort Smith, Arkansas. TJ, what's on your mind?
I was in Scouts myself back when I was a teenager, and now I've got a son that's in Scouts, or he's in Cub Scouts right now, not in Boy Scouts yet, but not old enough. But if they go through with this change, I haven't told my wife this. We haven't talked about it ourselves together, but I don't plan on keeping them in because it's wrong.
Yeah. All right. Well, and you're by far you're not alone in that. I know, TJ, a lot of fathers thinking exactly the same thing. Let's grab one quick call. Let's go to Ron, South Carolina. Ron, I just got about 30 seconds. What's on your mind? Ron, South Carolina, are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, got about 30 seconds. Just go.
Okay, I want to tell you, I called in and voted on that 972 line. It does take a while. I think either the lines are being jammed with so many calls, or either they slowing down the rate of calls they accepting. Either way, I got through.
Okay, good, Ron.
The other thing I want to say is, if somebody with American Family Association would call Chick-fil-A or either Hobby Lobby or both of them and contact their higher-ups for them to contact the Boy Scouts of America and give them words of encouragement.
Yeah, to hold the line. All right, Ron, listen, I appreciate that very, very much. So again, you may be on hold, and it's not, I don't believe it's because they're slowing down the calls because they want the input. It's that so many people like you and me, just ordinary, good-hearted Americans of goodwill, want to appeal to the Boy Scouts. Don't make the change. Do not give in to be gay. Do not let the bullies win. Focal Point AF or Talk, back after the news.